I guess the NBA took the 2nd of July off instead of the 4th. We're going to recap day 3 in free agency anyway. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd. How long have you guys been together? Your brother and sister? Oh, no, I screwed it up. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. So, yeah, was waiting to see if anything was going to happen on day 3 in free agency. So let's give a time update. It is the 2nd of July. It is midnight on the East Coast, and this is all we've got. Tomorrow is the last day I'm going to be in the country here, so we'll hopefully get some signings for day 4 of free agency. There's not a huge amount of guys left. We'll talk about that later on. But yeah, really slow trickle of a day. So let's do what we need to do. This will be a short show, and I'm sure you're only tuning in because you want to hear my voice, because there's not a lot of actually big information that did drop. But you know what? That's okay. Sometimes things slow down to an absolute crawl. All right. Kyle Anderson moves from Minnesota to Golden State. The Warriors' remake of their roster is very intriguing. We know the whole Klay Thompson stuff. We talked about that yesterday. And Klay had declined quite a bit. But they bring in these two players, DeAnthony Melton and today Kyle Anderson, who are just extremely high impact players. They're always very much up there in all the advanced stats. They are low usage players who move the ball and defend and just make things good. That is just a very different scenario to how the team was before. Steph is there. Draymond is there, obviously. The problem here is I guess that the Warriors now, I know they went in on Paul George and that didn't happen. They've been trying to make moves. They're trying to get Larry Marketing apparently, which maybe they get an hour or so after this breaks, I don't know. But Jonathan Kuminga is set up to be a gigantic usage player on this team. He has to be. They're not going to trust Brandon Podziemski to be a high usage guy. I don't think Podziemski is that guy necessarily. Melton's not that guy. Draymond's not that guy. Jackson Davis isn't that guy. Looney's not that guy. It has to be Kuminga. Unless I'm just completely missing someone. Like it's not going to be Quentin Post. Maybe Moody does take a big step up, but they also brought in Melton in that position, and there's Podziemski there too. No Chris Paul, no Klay Thompson, no one to generate shots. It's going to have to be Kuminga. And this could be big things for Podziemski because someone is just going to have to take shots. Steph might have to average 33 points a game with how things currently are. The team doesn't feel complete. But like Melton and Anderson, unbelievably good role players. Now, as for Kyle, I don't think he's going to be a fantasy option. Draymond is going to play the 4. Kuminga is going to play the 3. I'm guessing. Now, Draymond could play the 5, Kuminga the 4. And then you go with Podziemski and Melton as a 2-3. That's a very, very small 1-2-3 though. We know what Anderson is. He's Mr. 10, 5, and 5. If he plays 28 minutes, he'll get 10, 5, and 5. We hope he shoots better than like the 20% he shot from 3 this year. But it's 10, 5, and 5 with a steal. That's what he brings. And if he starts for the Warriors and plays 29 minutes because of injury or whatever they do, he'll do the same thing. 3 years, $27 million is not a lot of money in this economy. It's a pretty good deal for him. It's a loss for Minnesota, absolutely. On the Minnesota side, obviously it's Gobert Towns. Jaden McDaniels can push up to the 4, but it's not like they have huge amounts of players that will push into McDaniels' 3 position. There's Naz Reid, who plays some of the 4 or 5 minutes. But what this means is that someone, whether it's Josh Minart or Leonard Miller, is probably going to have to be in the rotation. Now, I think both of the... Minart's a better defender. Miller's a better offensive player. Minart's probably better suited at the 3. Miller can do that. He's big, though. They're not going to do enough, Minart or Miller, to be fantasy relevant, I guess. But at least, much like we saw with Peyton Watson last season in Denver, just being part of a rotation, and me and Matt Lawson talked about both Minart and Miller the other day, being a part of the rotation for one of those guys, whoever it is a key step forward. So that opens that up pretty significantly. Golden State, again, great role players. Melton we like. Anderson we like. The roles are weird. Kuminga is going to have to do a lot. But that could all change if Lowry arrives and Moody and Kuminga are gone in the trade or whatever they do. I don't know. That could change in a massive way. It's a team where I look and go, that's a very weird team, Golden State. Even though Melton and Anderson are great value plays, I think. Really good players in their role, fantastic role players. But they're just missing that guys that you need the role players to surround. I keep forgetting about Wiggins. Why do I keep Andrew Wiggins on this team? So yeah, Wiggins will start. So then hang on a second. Now I'm confused. So Podziemski, Curry, Kuminga, Draymond. They're gonna have to start Draymond at center, aren't they? Because Wiggins will start, but maybe they bench Wiggins. Or are they going to trade Wiggins? So Podziemski and Melton have got no hope. Does Wiggins play the 2? Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond. What a really weird team. They've also got Hall Pass legend Lindy Waters there too. Now Wiggins is going to have to take more usage. He can do that. But Kuminga will be the number 2 guy, I'm guessing. But now I'm looking at it and thinking, well, what the hell is this? What is this rotation? Wiggins, Kuminga, Green? And no Jackson Davis? Wiggins off the bench? Wiggins at the 2? That doesn't sound good. Limiting Podziemski? Something has to give here. So we can't make a full assessment on the Warriors because something is going to have to give without any question. It is not fully... The team does not make sense. Today's episode makes sense, and it's brought to you by Game Time, which also makes sense. Game Time is the unauthorized ticket reseller for Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball is cracking at the moment. All through the summer, nothing better than getting across to a baseball game with a Game Time ticket, because we know as you get closer to game time, the price on those tickets drops. Get a beer, get a hot dog, and get a ticket. Check your notifications in your local area. Flash deals, something going on right at the moment. Game Time will tell you, hey, we've got discounted tickets. Because again, as we get closer to things starting, they drop the prices. They want you in there. They want full stadiums, full arenas. So Game Time is advantageous like that. They've also got the zone deals, where you just choose an area that you want to sit, and then Game Time picks the seat, and you save money on that. That's a discount. Done. It's so easy to find and buy Major League Baseball tickets for any kind of event, really, in your area. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's easy. Go in, download the app, Game Time, create the account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. All right, sparkling discussion there on Kyle Anderson. Minnesota with some interesting things that they need to do as well. But there are still decisions that need to be made basically right across the NBA at the moment with some players who haven't signed. In fact, maybe that's a good time for me to tell you, and I should have probably created a graphic on this, but I didn't, about the free agents who are available still. As of me recording this, like I said, at midnight on the 2nd of July. DeMar DeRozan is still available. LeBron James, but he's going back to the Lakers. Gordon Hayward, Kyle Lowry, Buddy Hield, Evan Fournier, Gary Trent, Markel Fultz, Malik Beasley, Tyus Jones, Luke Kennard, Doug McDermott, Joe Ingles, Alec Burks, Miles Bridges. In terms of the most impactful ones for fantasy, well, it's LeBron, obviously, but we know where he's going. It's DeRozan. It's probably Hield. It's Tyus Jones, maybe. It's Miles Bridges. Caleb Martin is important, mainly because if he doesn't go back to Miami, there's a big opening there. Not necessarily his value, but where he goes or if he leaves is important. And like Precious Achiuwa, because he could actually just get the backup center minutes for the Knicks, even though I don't really think he's much of a center. But they have no one else. It's Jericho Sims. It's maybe going to have to be him. Where does Dario Saric or Dennis Smith have an impact anyway? Probably not. What about Tristan Vukcevic? No, I don't care for fantasy about Lonnie Walker. But there are still a few guys who can make impacts on the edges. But the big ones are going to be DeRozan, Bridges, Hield, Tyus, maybe. And then there's ones that have those cascade effects like Fultz or Beasley or Trent or Fournier or Lowry or Hayward. Like, will they be in the rotation? Could they steal minutes? That's the more impactful things. That's where we're at with that. So who else signed? Well, this is one that I'd heard about, but I hadn't actually seen much official confirmation on it, which I probably should have. Josh Green was a part of the Klay Thompson deal. He heads across to Charlotte for a couple of second-round picks. Been talking a lot about how the Hornets don't really have an established two-guard. A lot of point guards. Trey Mann, who's 6'5", is probably more of a 2 than a 1. That's maybe right. Vasa Micic. Reggie Jackson they brought in, who's a point guard. Nick Smith is probably a point guard. Tijan Shalan is not. KJ Simpson's a point guard. They've got Brandon Miller. Maybe they've got Miles Bridges. I don't know. There is a real chance when you're looking at this roster, and I'm looking at it now and trying to figure out who else would start. Miller will start. Grant Williams, maybe. Would they start Miller, Williams, Solan together? Could it be Mann and Ball together? Or is Josh Green a chance to start? Even if Josh Green starts, I'm not going to be massively excited for most 12-team fantasy leagues. But there is a path there. We saw once Kyrie was traded to Dallas, and there was a period when we were waiting for him to arrive and other players had gone, and Luka was out at that period as well. Green actually was able to ramp up his usage. His assist numbers were better. His actual usage jumped up. He scored well. He shot well. He has really struggled to adapt to smaller roles. And playing next to Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, it would be a smaller role. But like if it's Grant Williams or Solan or Mark Williams starting with him, maybe he can be okay in usage. I think they might lean towards Trey Mann, but I think Josh Green will be in the rotation for Charlotte. And probably more of a deeper league guy. Still some stuff, though, to play out, especially with the Bridges stuff, because that will change quite a bit if he does, in fact, return. Phoenix addressed a problem that they had last. Well, it seems obvious that they needed to address that problem based on this move. They bring in Monte Morris. Now, Monte Morris was acquired by our mate Troy Weaver last season. Didn't really play at all for the Pistons. Had like 3 or 4 games, had a back injury. Then went to Minnesota and really struggled. He didn't do anything. But now he signs in Phoenix. Now he's not going to start. It's Allen, it's Booker, it's Beal, it's Durant, it's Nurkic. There's nothing changing that. Royce O'Neal is going to get the 6-man minutes, I'm guessing. Bol will probably be in the rotation. Maybe Ryan Dunn is in there. Mason Plumlee's in there. But Morris has got to be a part of that rotation. That's something to watch if Beal is out. Now, what they can do, like if Beal misses time, they could slot O'Neal in there. But if they also just think that we can't have all of this, because that would mean so much going on to Booker, more offensive responsibility if, say, a Beal or Durant is out, I could see Morris starting. Now, we know about Monty Morris, and I haven't done it yet, but I'll do it now. I'll do the voice. He's one of the most boring players in the entire NBA. Monty Morris will come out and he'll start and play 28 minutes and he'll have 12 points and 4 rebounds and 6 assists with a steal and shoot 46% and 81 from the line. Like, it's just boring. He had the chance. He went to Washington as the starter. They wouldn't give him 30 minutes a night. His numbers were boring as. He's done in that respect. But we need to know these sort of things, like, because it could change rotation patterns. But also, if someone is out, Booker or Beal or Durant or whatever, if Morris starts and we're looking, hey, can I just get some assists in here? They've got a 3-game in 4-night stretch. Could I get 15 assists out of him? Yeah, probably. Maybe more. in those scenarios. So that is important, but it's also important to know that last year they said point guards, I've never heard of her. This year they were like, maybe we actually need somebody who can like dribble the ball a little bit and run a pick and roll somewhere, because Saban Lee, shockingly enough, isn't it. So he's there. They also, I won't say doubled down because it's not the same level of player, although I think this guy's not bad. They brought Colin Gillespie in on a two-way. Gillespie's been on a two-way for the Nuggets the last 2 years. Didn't play at all in year one with a broken leg. Last year, there were times when Murray was out and then Jackson missed, and Gillespie played. I thought he was okay. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Colin Gillespie was like awesome and that he's got this great future or anything like that. He's very undersized. Watching him in person in Summer League, he's short, man. He's not big at all. But he is smart. The shooting is something I'm not fully convinced of. He takes a lot of threes. What did he hit him at? 40%? But that's very low attempts. I'm having a look at the games that he played some bigger minutes in. There's not many of them, but he had like a 17-minute game, 6 points with 2 steals. 20 minutes, 6 points, 3 assists, 2 steals. 16 minutes, 3 points and an assist. These aren't inspiring. 18 minutes, 3 and 1 with 2 steals. But then there's this huge one against the Blazers. 24 minutes, 18 points, 4 threes, 4 assists and a steal on 78% shooting. 19 minutes in another game, 11 and 1 with 2 threes. 21 minutes, 4 and 7. 16 minutes, 8 1 and 3. I'm reading enough numbers for you. As a two-way guy who they can easily convert upwards, and I believe this will be the last season he's eligible for a two-way. You can't be on a two-way for 3 years, even though this is his third year. This is, I believe, the Harry Giles rule, which then they never used on Harry Giles. But if you miss your entire 1 year, like Gillespie did, that doesn't count as a year of service going towards your two-way. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong on that, if Larry Kuhn's watching, for example. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it used to be you could have 2 years on a two-way, and that's what Gillespie had, but he never played at all in the first year due to injuries, so he gets an extra one. It's like a redshirt year, basically. But that's just one for deeper leagues to watch. Gillespie is, 25 already, so I'm not sure what else we get. He's, 6'1". He's just a name for the deeper leagues to know. So is this guy, even though he was the number 2 overall pick 4 years ago in the NBA draft. Blunty, Jim Wisman. We know the Pacers lost Jalen Smith, so he is in Chicago now. We assume, and I still assume, that Isaiah Jackson has locked down the backup center role, but now they bring in Wisman to be the third string center. This team remains very weird in that front court. There is Siakam and Turner. They're not moving anywhere from the starting role. Then there's Toppin, who they just signed for $60 million. Then there's Isaiah Jackson. Then there's the number 8 overall pick, Jarris Walker, who's a 4, who I think should play small ball 5, although I think he can play the 3, which I'm not sure about. So Wisman is the third string guy there? Why would you give him anything more than a 1-year minimum? They gave him 2 years. The amount on that is not disclosed there. Maybe it's a 2-year minimum, second year, non-guaranteed. I don't really know. Who else was battling for James Wiseman's signature? How important was it that you get James Wiseman? Not that high. But at times, they have lost confidence in Isaiah Jackson. If Wisman does anything to show any of the potential that some people thought he had, what a great way that is of me saying that I never believed in him and he's bad. But what if he starts to show something? Could he take that role? Maybe. I very much doubt it. He is a terrible defender who struggles a lot with shot selection decisions offensively too. Can't pass. I just think he's really a negative player. I would have loved to have seen someone like Enrique Freeman, who they're probably going to sign to a two-way. He was their second-round pick. Get some opportunities as a small ball center, but he'll just play with the Mad Ants, I'm guessing. We do not get interested in Jim Wisman whatsoever. Not anything to look at, not anything to care about yet. But the allure of the high draft pick lasts for longer than it should. And that's, I think, where we're at with Wisman. And sometimes that trickles down to coaches who be like, you were the number 2 pick, Jim. Go in and show us what you got. And this has got to be the last chance for him, though. All right, so it's going to be Yeah, yeah. There's not much else happening. And by not much else, there's like literally nothing else happening in free agency. So let me tell you just about some guys who signed with their former teams. We can go a little bit longer on them, perhaps. Not huge long. Huge long? That's not a word. The Magic bring back Flaming Mo Wagner. They just signed Goga for 3 years, $25 million. Yes, we went, oh, that's an interesting number. Oh, they must really want him. They must be really into him. Sorry, as I can't speak English anymore. But they brought Mo Wagner back, 2 years, $22 million. So now I don't get it. That's 1 year shorter than Goga's contract, but less overall money, but more money per year. So now what the hell do they do? Surely they're not looking at this and going, maybe we can parlay Wendell Carter into something extra. Start Goga, have Isaac play some center as well, because we'll talk about him in a second. They extended him, and then have Mo there. I don't think that's what they're thinking. But it definitely is confusing with both Wagner and Isaac out of contract, and the fact that you declined Mo's team option. Once they declined Mo's team option and then re-signed Goga to that contract, I thought, okay, they must be out with Mo. I guess not. As well as bringing Isaac back. Could they move on from Wendell? For what? I don't know. Still got a few impending free agents. Fultz, Ingles. Don't know whether they're coming back or not. And then, in Boston, they already re-signed Neemias Queta. They re-signed Luke Cornett. And now they re-signed Xavier Tillman. They're basically just bringing the entire team back. The only guys who are on the roster who haven't re-signed are O'Shea Brissett, Svi Mihai-Luke, and JD Davison plus two-way Drew Peterson. And they bring in Baylor Scheiman, Anton Watson in the draft. It's just the same team running it back. Tillman will have an opportunity early in the season along with Cornett, along with Queta, with Porzingis out, but we don't really care about that for fantasy. 2 years, look at the difference. 2 years, $5 million for Tillman versus 2 years, $22 for Wagner. The difference between those two is not that much. It's a very, very big difference. It's where bird rights comes into it and like winning team priorities and all that sort of stuff. But interesting signings. Probably make a little bit more sense than the Jazz signing Drew Eubanks yesterday. But second and third string centers going off the board this early is pretty wild. Like Wisman, Wagner, Tillman, Eubanks. Why are all these guys, Cornett, Queta, all these guys going off the board so early in comparison to some of the other positions that are more valuable in players? And then we also had 2 extensions. We'd been hearing for 2 years how Donovan Mitchell does not want to be in Cleveland. Probably the Knicks, maybe the Nets, Miami, everyone in Miami, all the delusional legends over there. Nah, we just got to get Beal. No, we'll get Durant actually. No, how about we just get Lillard? Nah, Mitchell's our next target. Donovan Mitchell extended for 3 years, $150 million with a player option. Now, so in reality, that's a 2-year extension for $100 million because if he then doesn't want to be there, then he can leave. But he could obviously extend and then say, I want to be traded, but this puts a time limit on it. It's 6 months, I think, before you can do that. We know that there was some pressure applied somewhere to remove JB Bickerstaff, whether that was from Mitchell or whatever, but that happened. Kenny Atkinson's there. I think Mitchell will love Kenny Atkinson, to be honest. One thing to note is Kenny Atkinson, when he was a coach of the Nets, 11-man rotation. Kenny Atkinson, when he accepted the job for Cleveland, he was like, yeah, we're going to be cutting the minutes down. Yeah, we're going to run a whole team. Depth is important. We do not need you playing 36 a night. And we know that Mitchell got cooked up by the end of the year with a knee problem. So just be aware of that. Was the reports of Darius Garland's camp wanting a trade if Mitchell was back, was that accurate? Could that follow from here? What about Jarrett Allen with reports of teammates thinking he was soft for not getting an injection into his ribs, Tyrod Taylor style? Does anything else move on that? I don't know. But what I do know is that Mitchell is here. The Cavs gave him the extension and he accepted it. Because the thing was always like the Cavs will give the extension offer and if he rejects it, that means he's going, so send him away. He can still request a trade at another point, but he's here. He's locked in. We'll see if anything else happens or if they just all come back and Kenny Atkinson's the breath of fresh air they needed to push forward to another level. And then there is John Isaac. renegotiation of his contract and extension, 5 years, $84 million. I believe that will include the non-guarantee of this year. That's part of the renegotiation. It's more than you get for signing a book deal or for, OAN TV guest appearances. There is absolutely zero denying that Jonathan Isaac is an unbelievably good defender. Jonathan Isaac was really, really good last season in his role coming off the bench. Like I said before, they played him some small ball center. Absolutely true. He led this team in EPM. He led them in EPM. Like, that is ahead of France, ahead of Paulo, ahead of Suggs, ahead of Wendell. But he played 16 minutes a night and 58 games. That's more millions per year, basically, than minutes per game. And I'm not really certain whether he can play more than this. If John Isaac was playing 24 minutes a night, then we know that is a very easy 12-team fantasy guy for categories, not really points, maybe. But the problem still remains. He plays the same position as Paulo Banchero. What did I say it that way? Paulo Banchero. The other position he could play is theoretically the same position as Franz Wagner. I don't really think he's a 3, but I guess when he came into the league, he was. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is there and Gary Harris is back. He could also play the same position as Wendell Carter, but they also just signed Mo Wagner and Goga Badadze. So I have no idea. Do they just want him to be an 18-minute-a-night reserve? Keep his body fresh, have that reliability? I don't know. I've got no problem with spending money on a guy like Isaac, who's an elite player. Sorry, let me rephrase. Who's an elite defender. Understand that he's got a very limited amount that he can play. Like, Alex Crusoe can play more than him, but he's also got a limit on how much he can play because of injury concerns. Not as bad as John, obviously. But 5 years? Do we need to go that far? 5 years seems too long. I don't know if there are any guarantees or non-guarantees baked into the end, but 5 years just seems too long. Now, to be fair to Isaac, he played 21 minutes a night in the playoffs. I won't say he played his best. He was fine. Offensively, he struggled, but low usage player. His block rate and steal rate high as usual. He's going to do that, and he's always going to be a steal and block stream player. 5 years just seems too much. Too long. And honestly, that's it. There's nothing that I can see. I can't see any other moves or trades or signings that have happened apart from some people signing their rookie contracts like Dalton Connect and Reed Shepherd and Ryan Dunn. Bronny signed his contract. Pal Larson did. Calais Ware. Keshad Johnson signed a two-way. Zion Pullen signed a two-way. Do you want me to dive deep into Drew Smith returning for Miami? I think Drew Smith's the guy that tore his ACL in Cleveland falling off the side of the court. But yeah, slow day. Don't forget, thumb it up and leave your comments down below. I hope we get some traction tomorrow because tomorrow will be the last day that I am live here in the studio recording before I head across to the States to be there at Summer League. So if you are at Summer League for the first 3 days, I'm going to be there. Come up and say hi. I met a lot of people last year there, which was awesome. People in the media, but also just regular fans of basketball and people who watch this show. And I heard some great stories, had some great chats with people, loved it. In fact, I reckon half of my time, exaggeration, but a big chunk of my time was just spent talking to people versus necessarily, being a part of, or watching the games or anything like that. It was just talking to people who I know as colleagues or I won't say fans because that sounds so wanky. People who listen to the show or watch the show. So if you are there, keep an eye out. I'll be there the first 3 days in Vegas for Summer League. Before you do that, though, hit the thumb on this. Leave your comments down below. Apologies we didn't have any more big, exciting things happen. But you know what? I'm also not one of those people, as I just extend this show a little bit longer. I know there's a lot of people in the NBA media who's like, oh, man, we just need more action. We need more to go. I'm always of that mindset a little bit of like, do we, though? I know the NBA has really done this stuff in previous years to build up, hey, transactions are so cool. There's just something that feels a little weird about the whole frothing over trades and that sort of stuff, or free agency of people trying to figure out where they're going to be and are they going to have jobs and that sort of stuff. It's a little weird. It's not terribly weird, but I don't think that is the the main part of the league. So I actually don't mind that it's super slow. It is a bit annoying that there's a slowdown in the guys who are out of contract re-signing. I'd like for that stuff to be wrapped up. But I don't need a blockbuster trade every 5 minutes. Anyway, that's enough talking. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.